Hey everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back. In this video, I am going to just make a really quick card for you. I have two new products. One is from Simon Says Stamp, and they're these cute little bats. We have a little trio. And then I have these stamps from scrapbook.com. Actually, it's just one stamp, and I loved it. I just thought it was really cute, so I wanted to make sure to use both of these this Halloween season. The first thing I'm going to do is take 80-pound cardstock. I'm going to trim it down just a bit, and my final size is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. This is the panel that I am going to be using for my card, and I want it just a little bit smaller than the A2 size. The next thing I'm going to do is just position the stamp. I'm wanting it to be kind of in that top third area, and I'm going to use these nesting square dies to cut out a little window from my little cardstock here because I'm going to have fun doing some color here. It's going to be very simple. This is an extremely simple card, but I like how it turns out. So I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, get that window all trimmed out. That way I have an opening. Now you also could take this a step further and do a shaker card, but I'm keeping it really clean and simple with this card. Then I'm grabbing a piece of nectar cardstock. I love this color, and I'm trimming it down to roughly the same size. I think I end up getting it a little smaller, but it doesn't matter. Roughly the same size as my panel. And then I'm going to put this right into my stamp positioner, and I'm going to do some heat embossing. So one thing I'm going to do is just put some washi tape here just so we make sure that there's no shifting involved when I'm doing my stamping. And I'm going to go ahead and grab that stamp, and using the window, I am going to get that all positioned. So I'm not going to stamp with that white piece on top, but I want to use it to get everything positioned into place. Then I can remove that. I'll go ahead and condition my stamp since it's brand new to me. And I'm also going to use this anti-static powder. This is what I'm going to use to neutralize the paper before I do my heat embossing and get that embossing powder placed on there. Here is the first mark that I'm going to place on my stamp. It acts as a glue, if you will. And I end up stamping this 4 times. And the reason I do that is because there is a lot of surface area on this stamp. It's not fine and dainty. There's a lot of stamp going on. So I wanted to make sure that I stamped it plenty of times so I got a really, really clean impression with the embossing powder. So there is number 2, and I'll do 3 and 4. And let me tell you, in the end, this is actually really worth it. Sometimes it seems that this could be a little over the top, but taking the time to make sure that everything is really nice and smooth and taking the time to just make sure things are done right is time well spent. All right, so 4 little stamps there. You can see that impression just barely because that is a clear ink, if you will. And then what I'm going to do is I'm using a fine detail white embossing powder. I'm just going to sprinkle it right over that ink. And because I use that anti-static powder, you'll see that it didn't stick to any of the cardstock surrounding it. So any place that that ink is not present, the powder did not stick to, which is just wonderful. Then I can just save the extra embossing powder, and I'm going to grab my heat tool. I'm going to make sure this is super, super hot, and then I'll go ahead and melt that powder. And I love this. I think it's one of the most magical techniques. It's really, really satisfying to watch. And as you can see, because I did so many impressions with my Versamark, I got a really, really clean impression. I don't have any bubbles or anything in there, and that stamp just turned out really pretty. So that is that final look. I love that. You could also do a clear embossing powder if you wanted to kind of do a tone on tone, but I went ahead and did that pop of white. Then I can just add this piece to the front. I'm kind of getting an idea of what I want to do here, and I am going to keep this extremely simple. I'm going to take that little trio of bats, use some black cardstock, I'll trim that out, and I'm just going to have them kind of fly up the card. Now, I was inspired by a card that I created, I guess, was it last year? It might have been last year or the year before, with bats kind of flying up the card, and at the very end of this video, I'm going to show you that card, and if you want to see that as a card build, then I'll place a link to it down below so that you can go watch that video as well. So for this part, I'm going to just use a tape runner. I decided not to use a foam tape because I didn't really want this part to be bulky. You can use a foam tape and have this have some dimension surrounding your Happy Halloween sentiment, but for me, I wanted this part to be just nice and flat against my sentiment. So I will show you in a minute that I'm going to create dimension with these bats. So it was kind of important to me that for this part, I toned it down a little bit because we're going to get a lot of dimension once the bats enter the scene on the card. So I'll just make sure that's nice and centered. I'm going to grab my score buddy, and then using 110-pound cardstock, I have this size at 11 by 4 1/4. I'll place my score at 5.5 inches, and I have my A2 size card. And A2 is 4 1/4 by 5.5. I will then bring some foam tape in because I do want to have a little dimension between my card panel and my card base, but just a subtle dimension, and it's going to turn out really sweet. All right, so let's attach this to the card, and then we're going to get those bats flying up the card. And I love how this turns out. It's, again, super simple. We're only using a couple pieces of cardstock, but I like simple. It is striking to me. So you can dress this up even more, but here is an example of how you can just keep it easy and keep it classy. So I'll use some liquid glue here, and I'm going to also use some tweezers. I, as you can tell, bent those wings so that they are more dimensional there. And I'm going to use the largest bat and place it towards the bottom, and then I'm going to have 2 bats below, and then I'm going to put my 3rd bat up on top. And I love how this turns out. I really like the pop of the black as well. And you can use any color for that inside piece. I really like the nectar. It's kind of a peachy color, which I think is super fun for Halloween if you wanted just a softer look for Halloween, which is a little bit more my style. All right, I'm keeping this simple. I'm actually not adding any additional embellishments. I think that the bat acts as an embellishment as is, so I am not going to do anything further with this card. And I love it. Now, obviously, this is going to be something that you hand deliver to your recipient. That's not going to fit in the mail. You could actually flatten down the wings a bit and put it in a card if you'd like. And there is the inspiration from last year. Thank you so much for watching. I am so excited to continue crafting with you next time, and I'll see you in the next video.